Hello there, and welcome back to Sleepy Tales of the World. Tonight let's drift together into the cold heart of Russia, where snow whispers secrets and the wind carries questions that have never been answered. This is the story of 9 hikers who walked into the Ural Mountains and never came home. It was February of 1959. The world was quiet then, a different kind of quiet, heavy and wide, where the wilderness stretched forever. In the Soviet Union, deep in the northern Urals, a group of university students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute were preparing for a journey they believed would be one of challenge, friendship, and beauty. They were led by a man named Igor Dyatlov, 23 years old, disciplined, calm, admired by his peers. 8 others joined him: Zina Kolmogorova, full of laughter; Lyuda Dubinina, determined and bright; Rustam Slobodin, athletic and strong; Yuri Doroshenko, brave and loyal; Nikolai Thibault Brignol, intelligent and quiet; Alexander Kolovatov, meticulous and thoughtful; Yuri Krivonishenko, the joker; and Semyon Zolotaryov, the oldest, a seasoned hiker who joined them at the last moment. They called their expedition Group of 9. Their goal, to reach Mount Otorten, a name that, in the language of the native Mansi people, means "don't go there." They didn't take it as a warning, just a word, just a sound. But maybe the mountains were listening. On January 27th, they began their trek. The snow was deep. The cold cut through their clothes like invisible glass. They laughed, took photographs, wrote in journals. In the black and white pictures found later, you can still see their joy, frozen in time, unaware of the darkness waiting ahead. They set up camp each night, melting snow for water, cooking over tiny stoves, singing songs from home. The wind howled across the ridges, but they were strong, experienced, alive. By February 1st, the weather turned brutal: blinding snow, freezing winds, and zero visibility. They lost their path and veered west, up the slope of a mountain locals called Kholat Syakhl, which translates to the Mountain of the Dead. As night fell, instead of going down to the trees for shelter, they set up their tent right there, exposed on the slope. Maybe they thought it was safer than losing more time in the dark. Maybe it was a decision born of exhaustion. Whatever the reason, it would be their last night alive. Days passed. When the group didn't return, search teams were sent out. It took over 2 weeks before rescuers found their campsite. What they saw chilled them more than the cold ever could. The tent stood half buried in snow, slashed open from the inside. Boots, coats, food, all left behind. It looked as though the hikers had fled in panic, barefoot or wearing only socks. From the tent, a trail of footprints led downhill, scattered, chaotic. Rescuers followed them through the snow until they reached a small forest at the base of the slope. There, beneath a cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies, Doroshenko and Krivonishenko. They were barefoot, dressed only in their underwear. The branches above them were broken, as if they had tried to climb the tree, perhaps to escape something or to see back toward their tent. A small fire had burned near them, the last flicker of life in a white wasteland. A few hundred meters away, searchers found 3 more: Dyatlov, Zina, and Rustam. They were lying as though they had been crawling back toward the tent, their bodies positioned along a straight line in the snow. It was as if they had been trying, desperately, to return home. The remaining 4 hikers were missing for 2 more months. When the snow finally melted, their bodies were discovered in a ravine deeper in the forest. They were dressed in clothing taken from the others, suggesting they survived the longest. But what disturbed investigators most were their injuries. Dubinina was missing her tongue. Several had fractured skulls and broken ribs, injuries consistent with a massive force. But there were no external wounds, no sign of struggle. One investigator compared the trauma to a car crash. There were no footprints of intruders, no animal tracks, no sign of violence between them, just the eerie calm of snow and silence. The official Soviet investigation closed with a single haunting statement: the cause of death, an unknown compelling force. It left the world guessing. Through the decades, theories multiplied. Some said it was an avalanche, that the snow collapsed, forcing them to cut their way out of the tent. But the slope was too shallow, the snow too light. Others whispered about military testing, secret weapons, mines, or radiation. Indeed, the clothing of some hikers contained traces of radioactivity, but no evidence of weapons was ever found. There were stranger ideas: the Yeti theory, the UFO lights, the Mansi curse. Locals claimed they saw glowing orange orbs in the sky that night, maybe rockets, maybe something else. Some said the mountain itself was sacred, and that the hikers had disturbed its sleep. Even in the journals they left behind, there are fragments that feel like whispers. Wind strong. We can't see anything. The snow is like needles. Strange noise in the distance. No one will ever know exactly what they saw. In 2019, 60 years later, Russia reopened the case. After months of new research, the official conclusion once again pointed to a snow slab avalanche. But few believe that's the full story. How could trained hikers, some of the best in the region, flee into sub-zero temperatures half-dressed unless something utterly terrifying drove them out? Not an avalanche, not the cold, something unseen, something powerful. The site of the tragedy is now known as Dyatlov Pass, named after their leader. It's still there. The slope, the trees, the quiet. People who hike there say the air feels different, heavier, as if the mountain remembers. They say that when the wind rises just before dawn, you can hear the faint sound of laughter, of voices calling in Russian through the snow. Some claim the tent still appears in fog, a shadow shape on the white, vanishing when you get close. But maybe that's just the mountain breathing. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is one of those stories that never settles, never fully sleeps. It reminds us of how fragile we are against nature, and against the mysteries we can't explain. 9 hikers went into the wild to chase beauty, strength, and adventure. What they found instead was something beyond reason, a moment where fear met the frozen earth and time stopped. And so tonight, as you drift to sleep, imagine the snow falling quietly over those mountains, the sky above, endless and pale, the tent still there somewhere beneath the stars, and 9 souls forever walking into the white. This has been Sleepy Tales of the World. Thank you for listening. May the night be kind to you, and may the wind that moves through the mountains carry them peace.